Welcome to Ask My Leader, episode 2. In Ask My Leader, we bring to you some of the greatest founders, CEO, and management leaders to share their experience and thoughts on what has propelled them to their current positions. And of course, for those of us still navigating our career or entrepreneurial journeys, they will share insights on what they believe is essential for us to become better version of ourselves. In these episodes, we are delighted to meet the chairman of a leading company whose international brands are household name in Russia, Ukraine, Kazakhstan, and part of Central Asia. They have market share as high as 60% in Russia and 75% in Kazakhstan. Naturally, some of you might wonder how Southeast Asian companies from Singapore could become market leaders in these countries, why he chose to expand there, how he achieved this, what his success secrets are, and so on. They were the questions on my mind while conducting research before meeting our guest for this episode, Mr. Tan from Food Empire. Mr. Tan, the founder of Food Empire, which owns brands like McCoffee, Plasno, Prex, and others, run a company with a $500 million market cap that is listed on the Singapore Stock Exchange. He started his career at an accounting firm, but within the first year, he realized he was meant for something different. He sought sales role in big corporates like IBM, but was unsuccessful. Eventually, he joined a firm selling NEC microcomputers. In his early years, he faced many challenges. At that time, his colleague, who wasn't a graduate, consistently made deals while he did not. But because of his humility, he sought help, accommodating his colleague on client visits, and that's when he learned the essence of sales and business, which is building relationships. In the following video, you'll hear him talk a lot about how he built trust and the fundamental essence of building relationships. Make sure to listen to the end if you want to understand the theory that has helped him through the Asian financial crisis, the Lehman Brothers crisis, the 2014 Russian conflict, and even the reasons 2020 COVID-19 pandemic. If you haven't started your entrepreneurial journeys but are planning to, pay special attention to the first 5 minutes of the interview, where he discussed how he spotted opportunities in his early days, even during his school years. In this casual chat with Mr. Tan, he generously shared his experience, offering insight you won't find in any other interview, all in his own words. He's one of the most authentic, down-to-earth, kind, and generous men you could ever meet. Before you start listening, remember to click like and subscribe. So let's begin by asking Mr. Tan his experience during his school days.
I think everything is all about also your this mindset, because most of the time you're thinking about always thinking about doing business, and from young I always have this embodied this thoughts of trying to get out of school as soon as possible and doing my own business and so on. And see, this has been going on all the time, always in my mind whenever I go to school. Yeah, so I'm always looking out of the class and so on. This is something which is even up to university. So the lecturer always called on me. Suddenly, I just got down from my dream and he says, what are you doing over there? Because my eyes will be looking out of the window and then gazing into something, into open space, and then thinking about something else. So I think at the end of the day, is a set of dream that you are always thinking about what you want to do, and then you're just chasing after. When I was in pre-U days, I was making my first set of money. I was selling school textbook.
Ooh.
Yeah. So I was competing with the school stores. There was one store just at the corner of the school. And then before the school closed for the holidays, they will give you this textbook and asking you to go to the school textbook store to go and buy. And then you will see lines of people queuing up. And then there's only 1 or 2% attending to the students and so on. So it's very, very tedious. What I did was I got through my cousin who was actually running a medical bookstore. So I used his license to check on the wholesalers on the books. So after getting the school book list, then I will check with him all these books. I contact them and then wanted to buy, so I get the wholesale price. After getting it, I circulate to my classmates, a few will ask, and they say, please go to all the classrooms and then tell them, it says, you want to buy this book, buy that book. It says, you will get 10% lower than what the school bookstore is charging you. And then I'll deliver to you. You don't even have to queue up.
Special service.
And then you just need to pay me only when you receive it. So we went around and collecting orders and so on. And then after that, I just pile up my orders and then buy the books and then deliver to them and collect the money. And that's how I make my first bundle of money. Yeah.
So that one considered your first venture.
No, 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 no. This was just only like a hobby, something that you just enjoy doing and so on. But nowadays, I think the school is very tight on all these rules and all
Reseller.
that. There's a lot of restriction. So I don't think the kids nowadays can do all these kind of things. In 1974, there was this period when there's this conversion from black and white photograph to color photograph print. I happened to be chairman of the Photographic Society. At the time, I just stepped down. And then I realized that why should the student buy black and white photograph? So every year they will have this studio guy coming and then they will take class photograph, then line up everything, everybody together, about 30, 40 students. And then they snap a shot. And they take so long to do all this. Anyway, I just bought a 35mm camera, stand by the side. So each time he take a shot, I also take one shot. So, and he takes like 2 weeks to deliver the black and white photograph. I got it within 3 days from I just go to the photo studio and then just ask them print for me, and then I get the whole pile of them, and then I ask my classmates to help me to go to all the classes and then take down the orders. I preempt the black and white guy. The black and white photograph guy took 2 weeks to come back, and whereas mine was quite immediate. So I give it to the class and then ask them. So between selling at 75 cents, 80 cents versus selling at 25 cents for black and white, obviously the student, they didn't have a chance to look at the black and white. They saw the color one. And it's the first time in their life they ever seen the color photograph. That was way back in 1974. So they just quickly take the orders, and then I sold most of them to these guys.
Wow.
And subsequently, what happened was that when the studio guy came back and asked for orders, so you can expect what kind of orders he will have. Hardly anything at all.
Does he order back from you? Like, I also want the color one.
No. Actually, what happened was that a couple of days later, my school teacher in charge of the Photographic Society came up to me and then called me out to the room, and then she started crying. So he says, Wang Cheow, how can you do this to the school? So obviously that night I couldn't sleep at all. So I decided to pass back some of my money back to the school.
So they didn't really know that what you'll be doing at that point of time until...
No, actually I also didn't know. I just saw an opportunity and I just jumped at the opportunity and then tried to make some money out of it.
Wow.
That's all. So this is what you need to have as with an entrepreneur mind. So if your mind is always thinking that to look out for opportunity, jump on it, and then try to make the best of it, and that's what happened.
During my conversation with Mr. Tan, I was captivated by his fascinating narrative. I was drawn into the vivid stories of his past, and I found myself curious about how he consistently identified opportunities. Let's listen to his response.
How are you always being so sharp and alert on different opportunities then?
I think from young, I always follow my father. He was running textile. His business is very simple, just going to wholesaler and then selling the textile. So he'll bring the samples and then go from one person to another person. And then he is always very patient with them and then trying to sell them all the different texture, different colors and so on. So I just follow him around. And then, actually, frankly speaking, over the years, there's nothing much really I learned from him. But I just said the way he go around soliciting business. So I know how hard salesmanship is. Because I used to join one of this card company that provides benefit to club members. So I try to go around from one household to another household to sell. So I knock from one door to another and always get chased by the lady of the house. So all those old ladies, oh, we don't need this and so on. They say, why are you selling me for $25 per card? So I said, you can get discount when you use this card to purchase something else. After a while, I realized that, wow, how tough it is. So salesmanship is, you need to be very thick-skinned, you need to be very persistent, and you must never lose hope. You must continuously struggle on in order to get your numbers. So this is what I learned when I was young. Yeah.
So like when you always face all these rejections, how do you feel back then? And how do you like always go to the next? Is there any things that you do to prepare
I
yourself?
think first of all, you must have always a positive mindset. You need to be very optimistic, and I'm a very optimistic person. So my family members used to always tell me, says, "Well, even in the darkest of clouds and darkness, You are still so optimistic. Actually, I don't understand how you can be so confident. But that's me. You know, I can't change myself.
So whenever you face challenge, is this how you always like be like optimistic? You always have a high hope on whatever you do. Do you
No,
face
I
any
think everything is
downtime?
all about survival. Over the years in my business, I mean, we all started very small, and all businesses will start very small. So at the end of the day, it's a matter of persevering. I came out from university, started off as an auditor, and less than 1 year I quit because I told myself this wasn't the job that I like to be in. I was almost slipping through the job all the time. But my father was telling me, you have studied 3 years in the university for a professional degree, and why don't you just give it a chance, try it out and see how it goes. Maybe you start an accounting firm. So I thought, yeah, maybe I could start an accounting firm. So I said, okay, I will try. But I was slipping through the vouching during most of the time. Then I told myself, this is not the job I want. I want to be a sales guy. So I wanted to look for a sales job, and so in the minute I quit, I went to look for interview with people like IBM, Hewlett Packard, and so on. And none of them was willing to give me a try, because they felt that my degree is a professional degree, and they don't think I will stay long. So it was going to be quite a waste of their time teaching me, and after 2 years maybe or 1 year I will quit and then move on to somewhere else. But I was firm that I want to get a sales job. So anyway, I managed to get a job to sell NEC mini computer. That was after my audit career. I was knocking around from one factory to another in Jurong, I remember. And it was very, very tough. Because you get rejection all the time. So for 3 to 6 months I was struggling. So, and one day I was talking to my colleague. So each time he comes back, he get an order, then he will buy some cakes and give it to the office people. So whenever I see that, I feel very gloomy. How come I can't sell and then this guy can sell? And he's talking nonsense because he doesn't even know accounting at all. But yet he can still sell. So one day I said, can I follow you around? Then I went around with him, and then I realized, wow, he doesn't know anything about the background of the accounting and so on. But he's very good at relationship building. So the trick is how to keep close to your customer. And that's what he did. So that was something which I learned from him.
Is there any particular trick that you always use back then to create a connection, to maintain the relation?
I think the important thing is basically humility. So no matter whether you're at university level, you're secondary school, doesn't matter. Most important thing is that you build relationship with the people that you talk to and so on. I realized that I have to work very hard, and then at the same time also work smart enough by getting close to the customers. Of course, you have knowledge of the business that you are trying to sell to your customers. That obviously makes a lot of difference subsequently. But the beginning is always the difficult part. How do you get the deal? So you need to get through many layers. Layers is I'm talking about the secretary, the office people, then the bosses. So there are many people that you have to play around with your relationship building. At different levels, you will have different ways of coping and communicating with these guys.
As you have likely noticed, Mr. Tan's thoughts seamlessly connect, one leading to next. This fluidity of thinking is characteristics of many successful entrepreneurs who don't limit themselves to addressing a single question. They are always thinking several steps ahead. Mr. Tan is no exception, always ready to delve deeper from the challenging aspect of salesmanship and the importance of humility in learning from others to maintaining optimism even in dire situations. His tireless dedication to his work might well earn him the label of a workaholic. And I asked Mr. Tan a rather stupid question. How do you maintain your work-life balance?
While that you are doing all this business, how do you maintain your time work and your personal life then?
Life? No, I don't think I have really a lot of personal life in the first couple of years. Less than 1 year after mini computer sales, I quit because I saw an opportunity. That was way back in 1982. The microcomputer industry was building up at the time. A lot of people are buying all these IBM compatible Apple computers and so on. So I decided that I would take a plunge into that. So I started a computer company at the time. So I had my first showroom in Katong Shopping Center. So, and that's how I started selling. Those days, computers are not cheap. A microcomputer would cost about almost $10,000. I got the dealership for NEC microcomputer. So those days was the PC 8000, 8800, 9800. I will sell to the school kids who come to the showroom. And then I sell to them on the basis that, this is for their education. But eventually, most of the time, you end up more than 70% playing games.
Okay.
So the trick is, of course, how to get the kids to get themselves excited over the computer. Obviously, not study materials. They come in and then you play all those days you have this what do you call it?
Pac-Man.
Pac-Man that
Yeah.
you're not eating.
Yeah.
So we were always playing that, and then we encourage them to play and so on. And so the kids will come in, and then after that then we tell them, we say, on top of that you can do your homework over here, you can do some word processing, etc. So they get so fascinated, and one computer you're not talking cheap, you're talking about $10,000, and $10,000 in those days was so expensive.
Yeah.
When the kids come in after the school and so on, and then I will try to encourage them to play the games. And then the next thing is that, do you want to buy it? I said, okay, why don't you put a deposit? I asked the kids to pay a deposit, and they did really. They take out their money. They say, I don't have much money. $5, $10. You have $5, $10. Okay, we also take, even though it's only a deposit for a $10,000 computer.
Oh.
Then sometimes we tell them, say, hey, you don't have money. Do you have ATM card? Why don't we follow you to the ATM machine?
Okay.
Yeah. So those were the days. So we managed to captivate many of the school kids. Then after he says, why don't you bring your parents over the weekend? And then so they bring their parents down. And then when the parents come, of course, we will go on the more serious thing. Show them all the
word processing stuff.
But the whole idea is eventually they'll go back to the games. So those days I was selling these microcomputers. And in 1984 to 87, there was this period when the Eastern Europe was changing. Because the Soviet Union at the time was breaking up, and then many countries which was under communism. So you have the three jewels of Europe, which is Poland, Czechoslovakia, which is now broken to Czech Republic and Slovakia Republic, and then Hungary. So many of these traders will come into Singapore to buy electronics. They come here to buy memories, buy the processor, and then they buy the hard disk drive, and they buy the whole computer set. So they come in flocks of them. So they come to the shop, and then I used to sell hard disk drive to all these guys. So they will always carry like 10 hard disk drive, each person, and then they'll take a plane and then go back to the country. And those hard disk drive at the time you're talking about 10 megabytes and so on. Very small, but it was so bloody heavy, very heavy. Yeah. So I was selling to all these guys, and from 1984 to 87, I was assembling IBM compatible PC. So one day we get some orders from some Polish guy. They order the whole container of the IBM.
Whole container.
Yeah. So we usually burn all these computers during the overnight, 24 hours. And then after that, we will assemble them. It's quite easy. You just need to buy the casing, and then with the motherboard, and then you put in all the graphic cards, interface card, etc. And then with the hard drive, the soft drive, and so on. And then you just get a monitor with a keyboard, and that's it. You have one computer. Once you burn them for 24 hours, it's way to go. Yeah. So we assemble all this PC and then put them in one whole container, and then ship them to Poland. So I was doing this for a while, and one day I flew over to Warsaw, and when I was in Warsaw, I realized something, that this computer was not destined for Poland. It went across the border to Russia. So I've been moving around in Warsaw, then in Budapest, in Prague. And after this, I decided to take a journey eastward to Moscow. And that's how I started the journey to Russia.
How do you trace your computer? Do you follow the reseller, or how do you know that you go into
nothing
Russia?
is all planned for, because in those days Soviet Union was a communist country. You can't go there, and then they are so backwards. They don't have this telephone directory. They have some local, but then all these are not practical at all to us. I mean, there's nothing such thing as a GPS or all this.
Yeah.
So nothing. So everything is, you just have to rely on humans. Yeah. So I built up my friendship over there with you. You introduced me to her. She introduced me to him. So as I move along, I started to have gather a network of friends and so on. And many of these guys that I know are all quite entrepreneurial in nature. And many of them subsequently have gone outgrow from their business, from all this trading. They move on to other things like real estate and so on. Some of them are much bigger than all of us working here. So I get to know these guys, and then everything they wanted, I sell to them. I was selling to them home consumer electronics, parts of computers and so on. I was selling to them fax machine, typewriters, whole container of typewriters they buy from me. Even this car security system, because in those days people always break in the car.
Yeah.
So you buy this security system which you hang onto the window, and then the minute somebody break the window,
Okay.
the alarm goes off. So in 1990, the Berlin Wall came down in 1989, and then in 1991, the Soviet Union was disintegrated, and that was the start of the Commonwealth independent states. So, and in those days, I chartered air flights to Moscow and to Almaty. Each flight of the airplane, which I chartered from Pakistan Airlines and from Aeroflot, cost me almost close to 90 to 95 US thousand dollars, one-way ticket. So sometimes the plane fly there, but they cannot fly back for a few days because there was no fuel on the ground. So not enough fuel for them to fly back. Yeah. So those were the cowboy days. So we will charter the the plane, the whole plane come to Singapore, and then I will fill them up with as much as possible, because you need to fill up the whole plane. And then after that, send the plane over to Moscow, and then to Almaty. And then on the ground, then you start disputing to all the disputers, and then they'll pay you the money along the way. Some of them pay in advance, some of them you give them credit and so on. So in 1992, I took this 3-in-1 coffee that was from one of these Korean brands. And then I met one of the distributor from Kazakhstan. We met in Bangkok, and then asked him to try out. What do you think? Can we sell this? He said okay. And that was my first contract that I ever gotten. 22 containers, one order. Because that was supposed to be delivered over time. It's not like one-time delivery. So I managed to send those containers over, and that was the start of my business. So 1994, I decided that we will not do any more trading. We will start our own brand. And so in 1994, that was the time when we started the first McCoffee. And then in 1994, end December, I still remember we did the chocolate mix as well. And initially we started in Moscow. Then from Moscow we went out to the regions. Then from the regions we went to the entire Commonwealth independent states. So we're selling to all the other Central Asia, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, and to all the Caucasus like Armenia, Azerbaijan, and Georgia, and also to the Baltics like Lithuania, Estonia, Latvia. Yeah. So
is there any reason why you just focus on this region?
No, because I was trading around in this region for all the electronics and so on. That's why I wanted to mention to you how I started from beginning. Because it was from a little shop in Katong Shopping Center in Singapore. That was how I evolved. Everything is talking about how to enlarge your business, how to scale it up, how to continue driving up your business in terms of territory and geographical space. And so that's how we move step by step. Somebody asked me a question, did I have a balance work life? I said, no. I still remember 1983, 84, 85 year. I was working practically like 365 days a year. There was no holiday break for me except Chinese New Year when I go for my reunion, and then after that maybe 1 day, 2 days, and after that off I go again. And every night I will do my delivery of the computers until after midnight and so on.
Wow.
Yeah, I will go and assemble because you sell to these guys, these young kids, and most of the time the parents want the computer to be installed when they are at home, and so that's after their work. So then by the time I go there, then settle down everything, and then assemble, teach them how to use. So that was always close to midnight already. So there was no balanced work life. That was the first few years, and I still remember that was quite tough. I still remember we had the recession year. The time was around 1984. First time in my life, although I borrowed $80,000 from my father, and then it ended up into the business, and then I borrowed money from the bank on top of that. And for the first time in my life, I owed the bank more than $200,000. And I was crying one night, and that how I ever happened into that situation. But whatever it is, I continue to struggle on, because in those days when there was recession, it was quite difficult to sell. So you have expenses to cover, but you have hardly any sales. Yeah, but we slowly we struggle. Sometimes we don't take pay and so on, etc. But eventually we got over it. Bad times are never long, so bad times will always be over. So it's a question of perseverance, continue believe in yourself, and then have confidence about the future, and just being optimistic about everything and continue to plow on.
Bad times are never long. Bad times will always be over. If you are currently facing challenges in your life, I'm confident that Mr. Star's work will offer you strength and inspirations. If you are also contemplating a switch in your field, make sure to listen carefully to this part of discussions. It's a testament to the idea that success hinges not on what we do or the product you offer, but on your ability to build trust.
So back then when you are in electronics, going to coffee, like it's like totally different industry. Like 隔行如隔山. It's like totally different. What's make you
No,
jump over to
not
coffee?
really. In 1980 something, I started the first Japanese restaurant in Lehman Brothers. So that's something which I never done, and I must say that I make some mistakes along the way as well. Because the first restaurant I spent more than $700,000 on renovation. It was quite crazy, because you never think about how long it's going to take you to recover back. But because I was quite novice at the time, so that's how I learned, and then I get some hard knock along the ways, and then you become cleverer the next time. I mean, sometimes you can always plan forward, and then you say, okay, let me try to be cleverer a little bit in my approach. But not all the time you win. So there are times when you get it wrong and so on. But the important thing is you must set your direction where you want to go, and then continue to have a focus on your destination. And don't worry about along the way, because not everything is going to go your way. But when it doesn't, you just need to think of how to block it, skirt around it, overcome it. Eventually you get over. Yeah.
What is your advice to people who like to go into things that they are not familiar with, and then they are scared to step over?
If you have your dream, you believe in it. There are two ways. One is, of course, you put your feet inside and then see how deep the water is and so on. The other way is you just take a plunge, in your belief that this is the way to go, and then after you learn to swim along the way. So I choose the later.
Okay. So is this how you're always able to go up from a challenge? Like you just jump into it?
Yeah, of course. I went to Kazakhstan, and then nighttime you have a drink with. You go down there thinking that you're going to do a formal pitching for sales and so on. You realize your distributor was not interested in talking. So, and you can't speak their language, you cannot speak English. So then you have to use a translator, and it's quite difficult, and you have to wait for the time when he's ready for you, etc. So I still remember one time I went to meet a distributor. So the guy made me wait for 1-2 hours, and then after that, he says, tonight I'll host a dinner for you. And then I said, can I do some introduction on our business and so on? Oh, he said, no, we can do that tomorrow. Yeah. So then that night we went for dinner. I realized he had so many guests. Wow, when each time he stand up only, all the guests also stand up and so on. I realized he was quite an important guy. I realized I had to get close to him. And he was drinking the whole night. So we started with champagne, then after that beer, then the wine, and then after that the vodka. You toast with vodka, and then after that you end up with brandy and so on. Yeah. So the whole night we were drinking, not talking about business. But anyway, next day we come back to the contract. He told me, Tan, I'll send some money to your bank account. So I told him, I said, but you haven't decided what you want. He said, doesn't matter. We will decide that the following day again. I thought that maybe this guy is just talking when he was a little bit high. But really, the money came to our bank account. And so I realized that this is the way that these guys operate and so on. So they based on trust. They always tell me, Tan, I look at you, I like you, I trust you, and I'll send the money to you. And that's it. That's the way they operate. Yeah. And so over the years, I built my reputation in the marketplace. People know that when they hear from me something or we sign a contract, I will make sure I keep to the last letter of the contract. I will make sure that I keep to the last word of my promise. So I will not let them down and so on. And that's something which I learned over the years. Contract is only as far as if you want to sue a guy. If you don't intend to go to court, then contract is useless. Most important thing is your word that you have given to him. And this is what I believe in.
So along the years, the trust have been built. So that's why those who deal with you from electronic business, and then you turn them into distributing coffee.
Oh, they move along with me, this guy. Because in their country, everything was all lacking. They just got out from communism, and so there were not many things available in the marketplace. So they are looking towards us for capitalism, for capital goods, and so on. So many things were not available on the ground. So to them, it's an opportunity to bring these goods to the cloud and to start the dispute. So they found a guy that they can trust that can bring everything to them. So I sold them everything. Whatever they want, I sold to them. Car alarm system, computer systems, all the home consumer electronics. And I was quite well known in the marketplace for home consumer electronics because everybody trusts me that I'll deliver the things to them. Yeah. So that's how I built my business, just on trust. It's not on the product. The product subsequently when we started was on the McCoffee, which we brought up in 1994. So 1994 when we started, it was so difficult to sell. We were selling at that time 1 container, 2 containers a month. It was quite a struggle for us. Yeah. So sometimes you tell yourself whether the switch to the food was it the correct move or not. But we persist on. We started in Moscow, then we go out to regions, then after we go out into the whole entire Commonwealth independent states. And that's how we continue building. And I still remember we always go to the university area, then we do promotion to the students and so on. And today, if you ask any of the students coming from all the entire region there, many of them who lived through the 1990 periods would all remember our brand name.
Just like our Milo here.
Yeah, so we are like a household brand over there. And that's something which we are very proud of, that today we are market leader in those regions. And I mean, for your information, for the first time we clocked in about 60% of the Russian market. We have more than 40% of the Ukrainian market, and in Central Asia, like places like Kazakhstan, we have more than 70% market share. So everyone who live in the region there will know us, drink our products, and believe in our brand. That's the power of brand. But the interesting part is that when we did the brand survey once, many years back by the British, so they realized even though we have put a product of Singapore there, they never thought our product as a Singapore brand. They thought of it as an American brand, or could it be a Russian brand, or could it be European brand, but not Singapore brand.
Note the frequency with which Mr. Tan speaks about building trust and the importance of persistence before focusing on the brand. McCoffee as a household brand fulfills people's craving for a comfort hot drink. In this context, it's evident that the true brand Mr. Tan has established for himself is trustworthiness. Mr. Tan isn't all about business. He got a big heart too. If you have seen his social media, you will know he's really into community work and support a lot of young people. Actually, when we went to their office for the interview, they even have 2 interns there, showing how he's helping the younger and crowd to get a foot in the door.
Right now, you are going into chairmanship in the company. I find that you are more philanthropy. You go into a lot of schools and then giving a lot of like bursaries and stuff. Like, what makes you do that then?
I've been doing that all along. Whenever I can afford it, I will try to do it. I still remember when I was in the army days. So I used to donate to a student, I think World Children Incorporated, and then so I sponsored the student in Hong Kong. I took out from part of my salary. I always feel that along the way, whenever you can help somebody, you should always continue to do that because having the ability to help people, I think that's your gift that you should always treasure. Not many people are able to give, but if you are one of those who can give, I think you should be happy that you can do that. And always, when you give, never think of anything in return.
As we wrap up the interview, I once again express my admirations for Mr. Tan's resilience in facing various challenges. In response, Mr. Tan offered insights into one of his specific challenges during the COVID period. Recall at the beginning of the video, I promised a valuable piece of advice from this session. Here it comes.
I always amazed like how Food Empire can always overcome challenge. Like 2008, the financial crisis. 2014,
that was
the
a
war.
period when I actually lost many kilos.
Okay.
It was a really high stress. I have at that time a few hundred containers of raw materials coming in. That was towards the end of the year. The Lehman crisis was around October in 2008. Hundreds of containers coming in, and I could not process the production because I got nowhere to sell. And the places that I sold to, I don't know how to collect back the money because the currency was tumbling. So it came down so much, and if I collect back the money, I will lose money. Yeah, and I can't sell at all because I don't know whether they're going to pay me. Yeah, so there was a 6 months to a year period when I was really highly strung. The credits were chasing after my neck, asking me to take more goods, even though I say if I take the goods, how am I going to pay you? No, they want me to pay and at the same time take the goods. Yeah, because they are also having a problem. They have to continue producing because they cannot stop. So they also stuck. So it's a whole cycle. The entire economy multiplier effect that came into the picture. We had a hard time struggling in that period. So, but we try to do what we can, which is collect as much money as possible, and then try to sell as high as possible, and then come up with products which are as economical as possible, because it was recession period. Yeah. And believe it or not, by the year 2010, we collected back so much cash. We have a big pile of cash. Then we're thinking what to do. That's how we bought this building. The crisis pushed us to the certain extreme, and that was to be very frugal, and at the same time to be very calculative. We had to trim off some stuff at the time. It was very difficult. Some of us were crying. We had no choice. Yeah, we have to do it. Yeah.
In school, we learned about this thing called just in time, and then I read in one of the annual report, you come up with just in case.
Because of all this logistic issue, supply chain, we deliver across the world, covering 11 time zones. And so sometimes container get stuck here. We have containers stuck in Qingdao. That was the port whereby the goods have to go on the rail. Then on the rail it goes up, we'll truck it all to Central Asia. So it was jammed everywhere. In Qingdao it was jammed for 6 months. So I had a hard time. And from Singapore, at that time during COVID, how to ensure that you get it working. So I tried to contact the railway people. I managed to find people who owns the railway. I tried to get the Chinese embassy. In the end, I got the Kazakh embassy. Realized that the thing was also stuck because the frequency of the train was cut down. On top of that, they only give selected items like medicine, other things they are all thrown out. So because of my good relationship with the Kazakh embassy, they helped me to get prioritized. They also pushed very hard to the Chinese government and to the Kazakh government, and that's how we get things done. So sometimes you think of it, a couple of phone calls can make a lot of difference. Yeah, and once you get the right guy, but the right guy means that this guy must also be quite connected to you. So how to get connected? I always tell people, don't only go to them when you need them. You must build relationship from day one, and which means that you never know when you're going to need them, but you continue to build your humble relationship with this guy, and they get to know you. And eventually one day when you call them, they will always be your service. But you hope not to call them. It's like insurance, You buy insurance, not to tap on the insurance. You hope that you don't have to use the insurance. Because the day you insurance means that you're in accident, emergency, that will be a terrible time.
Honestly, after every interview like this, I'm just blown away. There's so much good stuff that Mr. Tan has shared. He talked about stuff like always being ready for new opportunities, diving into it with all he got, staying positive and hopeful even when things get tough, and sticking it out. And remember, it's always cool to ask for help, keep making friends, and build trust as you go. If you like this video, hit that like button and subscribe. Drop a comment, or if you've got any more questions you want to ask, just comment. Big thanks again to Mr. Tan and Maria, Food Empire Market Manager, and huge shout out to Mr. Tan again for sparing your precious time in your packed schedule. That's all for this episode. See you in the upcoming. Bye bye.